There we go. It being 4 o'clock, we'll call the meeting of the DPW Facilities Study Committee to order. First on the agenda, well, second on the agenda, we'll get into the progress for from Weston and Sampson. So I guess we'll turn this over to Jeff.
All right.
Dan, are you comfortable here online? Are you?
I can hear you loud and clear.
Okay, great.
Do you guys want to hit the lights in the back to see if you can get a little bit more?
Yeah.
Another one?
Might as well.
Well, thanks for having us back again. What I wanted to do was walk you through the progress that's been made since we last met. I'm going to just do a quick recap of the work that has been done, and if we need to circle back to anything, if you have any questions, just let me know. I'd be happy to circle back to those. So this is a summary of what we've been working on, and I just want to quickly go through these. First was the Phase 1 environmental assessment, which was completed. As we discussed at the last meeting, we did identify areas of environmental concern. So we further reviewed those areas through a Phase 2 environmental sampling program. And as I mentioned, we were just getting the results at the last meeting, but I have since confirmed that there is nothing above MCP standards. We have only some trace concentrations of metals, but no exceedances. So therefore, we don't have any issues with contamination that we've been able to identify at the site. So that's great news. From there, we further advanced the subsurface investigation. And again, we gave you kind of a preliminary update on that. And what we found was undocumented fill ranging from up to 27.5 feet deep, basically from 0 down to 27.5 feet of fill. And what it means by undocumented means we just don't know that it was properly compacted, and in accordance with the building code, without that certification, you can't build on that without making some form of modification. What it looks like is that through the history we found through the Phase 1 is that the site was dug out and basic landfill material was moved out and then fill was placed. But that fill is unsuitable for supporting the footings and slabs for both the building and the salt shed. We did look at what it would take to remove and replace that fill depending on the depths. Clearly at 27.5 feet of excavation to try to recompact it and place it back was not economically feasible. But what we found is a very granular material, so it's very well suited for the ground improvements, the rammed aggregate piers. So at this point, we're recommending that the site be improved with those rammed aggregate piers. What that'll do is provide us with the ability to then build the structure as if it was on suitable soil with just shallow foundation and spread footing. So it's an economic way of dealing with the condition that was identified. While that was ongoing, we also had a survey crew on site. They have completed the survey for the site, and we took that information and began with the site plan design. So when we initially began, we were basically looking at concepts, using aerial photographs and whatever information we can find from historic data, but now we had an on-the-ground survey. Using that information, we've been able to define the location of the building to a degree that we're comfortable it doesn't need to be moved. If there's any shifting, it's going to be minor as you continue to tweak the plans. We've identified and defined the location of the circulation patterns and the parking on site. We've gone through and further defined the location of the detention basin. That's probably one of the biggest items because it's a very large detention basin that was on the site serving the landfill. And so the goal is to relocate that so we can build this facility. Now that we had the survey, we were able to identify the slopes around that to make sure that we weren't proposing to build it in a large slope and be basically chasing that slope. So we've reconfigured that detention basin and have a location on site. And we're in the process of doing some stormwater calculations to determine if that basin can support not only the landfill, but a lot of the runoff from our site, all in that one location. We've also defined the location of the fuel depot, and we've worked closely to determine how that can be constructed and be maintained while the new building is constructed at a subsequent phase. And then we've completed some schematic grading. The building itself, we've completed schematic building design. We've advanced the floor plans, incorporated some of the comments from last meeting. We've developed elevations and developed a conceptual model, massing model, to understand how that looks three-dimensionally on the site. And we're currently in the process of looking at the landfill mitigation and planning aspects, as well as we're further advancing the stormwater investigation. The reason the stormwater investigation is a little bit behind is we really needed to get our hands on the stormwater calculations for the landfill, because ultimately we're tying into that system. And the Board of Health was great at getting us a copy of the completion report for the landfill, and we're in the process of reviewing those stormwater calculations. So that's the boring part, just going through all the work that's been done. I just wanted to show you some of the photographs and some of the work that's been completed. So starting with the schematic site plan, I think you'll note not a lot has changed. I mean, we've worked closely with you over the past many months to come up with a concept that made sense, but we basically have worked to refine it. In the large center of the screen, the large portion here, this is the building, and we've further defined the location of that building in relation to the cap, which is on the edge where you can see my arrow pointing now. And then you can see on the right, this is the detention basin. And this was really two of the driving factors for the site, because as you move to the right, this is a very steep slope, and we did not, as I mentioned earlier, we did not want to chase that slope. That would be unnecessary earthwork and costly. So we came up with this configuration here that will, in essence, support the stormwater for the landfills as well as hopefully for the site. And in the upper right, we have the salt storage structure and the bulk material storage bins. These bulk material storage bins earlier were shown going further to the right of the screen, and the reason that has been brought in a little bit is primarily, again, because of the survey and the slopes that exist over in that area here. So we're looking for ways to provide the town with the opportunity to build this facility, but identify cost savings or unnecessary costs that we want to eliminate associated with some of the site grading that we've been able to identify. This is a blow-up view of the main facility. So you enter the site on the bottom of the screen here, where you'll be able to enter and access the parking, whether it be on this side for administrative functions, or to the left here, which would be for sticker operations, and then you have staff parking that continues through the site. The site would be gated at this point here, so you'd have no public getting into the back of the site. It would also be gated on the left at this entrance point here. And so now you have circulation that could be through the site, basically all around the site. The fuel island is located in the upper left, and what we've done is set up a small island so a vehicle can enter, pull up to the island, swipe a card, the gate will open, and they'll be able to access the fuel island, and then they can exit around the building and back out to the main street. We've also provided sufficient room so that they can turn in this yard area here and exit back out without having to drive through the site. We've provided some overflow staff parking for the maintenance operations, as well as out-of-service vehicles. A lot of times when a vehicle is waiting for a part, you don't want to tie up a bay, so we've provided some function on the site for that. Two of the suggestions from the last meeting was, what would it take to infill this area here to the left of the administration area in employee facilities, potentially as a bid alternate, and I'll show you some options on that. And at this point, we've highlighted or identified it with a dashed line around that area. And then we also were looking to put on a storage canopy off the back of the building the entire length. Once we got the survey, we determined that we cannot do that. There is insufficient room. We would basically be into the cap. So what we've shown on the left side of the storage garage and on the right side of the storage garage are two smaller canopies. These will not meet the full requirements of the seasonal storage, cold storage requirements, but we wanted to at least indicate that these were two possibilities. It's about 2,100 square feet of canopy storage. And if there's any questions as I go, feel free to stop me at any time. So let me get into a little bit about the schematic building plans. And I'd just like to start with where we were. This is the original plan when we first began the process with you. And I'm going to kind of fade into the next plan, and you can see the difference. As we went through this and refined it, you can see the old outline is dashed. We reduced the overall footprint of the building, and then from there, we took this plan, moving into this is the pre-schematic design plan. We took a hard look at it to determine where we could improve it and take a look at what was reduced. One of the areas that I just wanted to point out, going back to the original plan, was we had 3 maintenance bays, and through the reduction process, we squeezed that down to 2. And you know that can become a problem because you ultimately end up having bays tied up with vehicles that are waiting for parts. It just reduces the flexibility. But what we found is that with some just creative reconfiguration of the space, if you look to the current plan, you can see that we're able to squeeze in those 3 bays with really no impact, minimal impact to the overall footprint of the building. We think that that's an important item because the facility with just those 2 really wouldn't be responsive for the long-term operations. And we felt that this provided a little bit more flexibility. And if you flip back between the pre-schematic and the current plan, you can see that the overall footprint is basically unchanged. We've provided a drive-through. We switched it from, at one point we had it through the wash bay, through a shop. We've provided it through the maintenance. That's, to us, more important because if you bring in a vehicle in on a wrecker, you can just pull it right through, drop it off, and keep driving out. So these are some of the minor adjustments that we've identified through the process. And as we went through it, if you look in the bottom left of your screen, this is that area that we talked about for a potential bid alternate to get a little bit more space, make the building flexible for future use, for future changes, as we talked about. We don't want, like the town of Dennis, we don't want to, 10 years from now, have to put people in the lunchroom for their office. And so with this configuration, you can see as you fade in, this is the current plan with the bid alternate, and that shows in the bottom left of your screen. And just to show you a little bit closer, because it's difficult to see on the large scale, I took a cutout of that administration area and employee facilities area. So this is generally the area where the administration employee facilities are. This area to the left represents that bid alternate area. And what we did is we set it up with a closet. And so what you would do is you would take this, if you were to add this and at one point need to move it out, you could take this muster lunch training room and basically shift that over to this space, turn that closet into a connecting corridor because it's sized appropriately for that, and then ultimately build the new space. And if you look down to the bottom, here is that lunch training room on the left-hand side, and then here's that space that was the lunch training room. And you can see, there's your lunch training room, this is your open office area with 2 private offices. You have a lot of flexibility on adding staff or reconfiguring staff. By leaving this as an open space, you can use modular furniture and provide a couple of private offices, or the whole space could be open. So there's a lot of flexibility. So I think this is a great opportunity to put in a bid alternate just to get that superstructure, the enclosure, the foundation of the slab, and it gives you the opportunity to easily expand into it in the future. The next plan represents the mezzanine plan. So we took all of those spaces, and as we talked about earlier, we have a lot of volume, and mezzanine space is very inexpensive to construct. It gives you a lot of flexibility, especially when we've really tightened up that floor plan. So the areas shown in yellow represent the mezzanine space. And one of the items that we're looking to do is we created in this center of the building here a mechanical space, because this on a mezzanine can be enclosed and it doesn't count towards the mezzanine calculation of 1/3 of the floor area. So again, this is a creative way of not wasting the more expensive first floor space and provide the DPW and natural resources with appropriate and increased storage capacity on an upper level. These upper levels will be accessible through bridge cranes, forklifts with removable railings, so easily accessible and designed for the heavy loading of 250 pounds per square foot. And then finally, on the overall massing of the building, this is the roof plan. So you can see the middle mass here represents the shops, the high volume for the shops and maintenance. The lower areas represent the office and employee facilities. And you have these little canopies off the ends to represent the door locations, just to cover those doors. They're open canopies, but just would cover the doors. This would be your bid alternate space here, and then your vehicle storage area in the upper part of your screen. These represent the elevations that we've been developing. I've provided a key plan in the upper right. So the east elevation, north is to the right. The east elevation, which would be the main view as you enter the site, is shown on the bottom of your screen. So we're looking to use some difference in material, different material types to help define the administrative portion. You want some visual wayfinding. You want people to pull into the site, not just see a big mass of metal panel, but use appropriate change of materials, but still a cost-effective paneling material to help them, guide them to the main entrances, which is shown by the darker areas here. And as you looking from the front, you can see in the back the roof jumps up. This represents the maintenance and shop areas, and we've provided this vertical face so you can put some translucent panels, and you can see it if you're looking from the north elevation along this face here. These are basic translucent, not windows, but translucent panels to allow natural daylighting in, and we've also provided them over the doors. And that's very important because that can allow you to reduce your artificial lighting and, in the end, reduce your overall operating costs. And then we provided a single slope roof on the back of the vehicle maintenance area just to provide some flexibility in how you structure that building and also give you a higher space for some of those mezzanines. So on the left side of the storage garage, that's where you put your mezzanines and still have enough headroom. And as you look at the other two elevations, you look at the south elevation, which is the vehicle maintenance side, and the wash bay, so you can see those doors here, again providing translucent panels. And then further to the left is the vehicle storage area entrance. And then you'll notice on the back here, we have, this would be floor level at the bottom of the masonry base, but you can see that the grade is higher on the left side of the building. And that's basically, on this key plan, that's this road in the back. Due to the grading of the landfill, what we're going to need to do is basically use that wall as a partial retaining wall to retain the road. Otherwise, we would be undercutting the cap, and that could cost a lot more money to try to basically change that. We want to keep the cap intact without messing around with it, and that can be done simply by designing that building to retain the road as it drives around. It's only 1.5 to 2 feet at most. And as you look at it from the back, you can see again the use of more translucent panels to help bring in some natural daylighting. We've been updating the massing model to really give you a better sense of what the facility might look like. Here's the main road here and the entrance. You can see this is the overall massing. We'll start adding fenestration and wall finishes as we continue to refine it. This is a view looking back from the landfill side. Here's the landfill on your right. Here's the vehicle storage area, shops and maintenance, administration, and we have, this is the actual 3D image, which again, as we showed you when we first met during the interview process, it gives us a lot of flexibility where we, as we're discussing it, we can pick different elevations to give you a sense of how the massing is, and you can zoom right in and take a look at it from different elevations. So we'll start adding the fenestration so you can understand how this building operates, how the massing relates to the other areas, and what it would look like from the street as you pull in. And the idea is, as you look at it from this elevation as you enter the site, you have a very low mass, nice looking structure, and then in the back, as you pull up, are your shop areas that are shielded from the administration employee facilities. So it's a nice massing for the site, and it works well with the overall operation. So there's a lot of flexibility. You can see the fueling in the background here, separate from the building, so that that can be constructed first without impacting the overall facility. As we mentioned earlier, there was some discussion about the salt storage structure. Let me just jump back to the site. So here is the salt storage structure that's shown in the upper right. And what we've talked about and we've been programming for is a basic fabric structure. This is a sample of what that would include. And what you have is a 6-foot-high block push wall that could go up to 8 feet. This is a high fabric structure. You can enclose this with a door if you'd like. In this particular community, they wanted to just leave it open. And then we have a loading ramp here so that the front-end loader can drive up this loading ramp and be at a higher level so that they're dumping into the vehicle. It helps to reduce overloading of the spreaders. Also helps to prevent spilling on the ground, because that's white gold in the wintertime, so we want to ensure that it's getting into the trucks and on the street, not all over the ground. Other options that obviously are out there that are more expensive are high arch gambrel, but at this point the intent is to go with fabric structure. What we've currently shown, and this is something that I'll work with DPW on, is a 55 by 65 foot structure shown here on the left. And what we do is we have a calculation that identifies the volume, the storage capacity of that structure. And currently, based on, it has a 33-degree angle of repose on the product, so that's the maximum you can stack it. A 55 by 65 structure gives you about 1,600 tons of storage capacity. So I think that we're going to probably want to bump that up possibly.
We'll look at our volumes and how much we need to refill.
Yeah. Yeah, so the good news is these buildings, being that they're very cost-effective, and you can see that they're on standard, typically 8-foot grids, very easy to add 1 or 2 more bays if necessary at a very low cost, because you're basically just adding some heavy-duty concrete blocks, 2 frames, and a little bit of fabric. So we'll further analyze that and nail that down. And I think that concludes our update. I guess there's a couple of issues that we're looking at with the site challenges that we're continually fine-tuning, and that's the detention basin, which I mentioned earlier, has the steep slopes, the existing slopes that we're avoiding, and thus far we've been able to do that. We are evaluating how we're going to get the landfill drainage with the new configuration over to the new basin, because what we're having to do is shift the basin further down on the site. And we're not going to have that direct surface connection, so we might be looking at some type of piping or culvert system, but we're going to look to try to minimize that. There are going to be potentially some retaining walls along the parking areas, because what we found through this process, and I'll just go back to the site plan, is that the grade has a dipping point where it's high at one entry, it dips down, and then comes back up. And so the site itself really needs to be at the same level, because it has multiple overhead doors, multiple points of egress, access to the building. So right around this corner here, we're going to have to either do some creative grading or possibly some earthen block type retaining walls. Nothing critical, but we're looking right now to squeeze things back a little bit so we can just do that with natural vegetated slope. Some of the other final challenges that we're addressing is underground recharge at the south end of the site. So that's on the maintenance and fuel island side. We ran some calculations to see if we could get that drainage into catch basins and then over to the detention basin. But due to that run, what we found is that that pipe would enter really low in that basin, therefore eliminating the storage capacity that we need in the basin. So most likely we're going to be looking at doing some underground recharge, which is the Caltech chambers that are either under the pavement or under adjacent landscaped areas. Not a big deal. We do them on pretty much every job, but they are a little bit more expensive than using the detention basin, but it's just too far away. We looked at putting in a detention basin on that other side. However, the slope is rising up, so there's really no way. Again, you're chasing a slope trying to get in a basin.
Is there a limit to how much deeper you can go from what's there now?
On that basin itself,
Yeah.
let me just squeeze up to that. We haven't hit any high groundwater in this area.
Uh-huh.
But what we found is we set this basin based on the slopes that existed over here on the right-hand side. Mm-hmm. So if we went deeper, then this slope, instead of ending here, would end way up here, and we'd end up starting to be off of your property. So the real driving factor on the depth was the adjacent slopes. And so that concludes all the work that's been done. I guess what I would wrap it up by saying is that, you know, when you're going into this with a concept and you're getting borings and you're getting survey, those are the key elements that drive this. That's really what begins to dictate whether there's any major hurdles that we can't overcome or any major cost impacts. And what we found is that with the survey, we had some challenges, as I just listed, but I would call them minor relative to a project of this type. And we found that environmentally, we've had good results through the Phase 1 and Phase 2. From the foundation perspective, as we expected and as we were originally planning, there are some challenges there, but easy from a constructability and a design perspective, a little bit more costly from a construction perspective, but that'll be factored into the estimate that we'll be beginning once we finalize these, take these a little bit further.
on the soil mechanics side of the issue, have you zeroed in on what system you're gonna use to support this? I mean, are we that far along?
Yes, so it'll be the compacted stone columns. There's a couple of firms that do them. Geopair is another name, or rammed aggregate pairs. So these will be typically 18 to 24-inch diameter. They'll drive a mandrel into the ground, and then as that mandrel goes in and expands the soil, then they'll have a chute at the top where they'll drop in crushed stone. And as that mandrel comes up, it pounds it down and continues to expand. And then, so what that does is densifies the soil all around that.
So we're not driving any piles here?
No piles.
Oh,
Right.
that's good.
Yeah. What we found is the rammed aggregate pairs become not a good option if you have soil conditions that have silt or peat or other items. But what we found is that it's a good granular material.
Huh.
In fact, it's perfect for rammed aggregate pairs. Where we've had it in the past with layers of organics, then what you have to do is you have to do grouted rammed aggregate pairs. So now you're putting in
Yeah.
special, you're adding in the grout, and it's much more complicated, more costly. But we don't have that here. We have good granular material, so that's great.
Wow, okay.
And what's that called, a ram dagger, did you say?
Rammed aggregate pair.
Okay.
The generic term is compacted stone column, CSC. Rammed aggregate pairs is like saying Coke instead of soda.
Gotcha.
It's someone
Yep.
owns that name.
Yep.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
What kind of fuel depot, what kind of opening are you going to have for those trailer trucks to go in there?
So they'll
They're
be
50-yard foot long,
Yep.
almost 60.
Yep, so we're running the HydroCAD on right now, I'm sorry, the auto turn, HydroCAD, that's the Spanish. Is this someone
Because every place like coming out of
Yeah,
the dump and everything, they never laid those roads out good for trailer trucks.
right. Yeah, so
Now-
we're going to run the auto turn to confirm that you get an 18-wheel delivery vehicle to make this right-hand turn into the space where the gate will open, and then from there, they'll be able to pull right up to the tanks, and then we've left enough room so that they can make a full turn within the yard and exit. So we're in the process of running that auto turn. We've done it preliminarily. That's, as I indicated, there's going to be tweaks as we go, and as we continue, you'll probably see that opening adjust a little bit more. And then you also have the capability of driving through the site and back out. So we're trying to give you...
Then you can drive right around the building.
Yep.
And come
Give
out.
as much flexibility as possible.
Yeah, good point, buddy.
And under this current plan, what originally we were looking at bringing vehicles in, let me see if I show it on this plan, from, under this scenario, we're looking to bring vehicles in from the left and then park left or right and exit out the right, which is a little bit different than what we were looking at before. And the reason for that is if you're looking at the site plan, a vehicle can come in at the end of the day, fuel, and then drive right in, park, and then they'll exit out of the site in this direction. So you can, 6 one, half dozen the other at the end of the day. It's just striping on the inside of the building. So you have the ability to do both directions.
Jeff, I have a question for you.
Go ahead, Dan.
On the overhang, looks like we lost some overhang space. How much did we lose percentage with that new offsetting, putting that space somewhere else?
Yeah, so we were looking at about, let me just check. Hold on one second. Yeah, it was like we were looking at about 6,600 roughly square feet when we met last time, when we were looking to put it on the backside of the vehicle storage garage. And currently, under this scenario, we only have 2,100. So, significant. I think with these canopies, which really are there maybe as a bid alternate at most, they just provide some on-site flexibility, but they do not deal with the needs associated with that cold storage that we were looking at originally for off-site. And, as much as we wanted to squeeze it up there, because of the grading and because of the landfill cap limits, and once we got the survey, we determined that there really is just no way to squeeze in that canopy while still providing access to it.
And the costs that we have now, the additional cost because of grading, you said there's going to be some additional costs, some of the site work, the other things that you were discussing. Can you talk about that a little bit more, or is that something we're going to talk about later when we have more details?
Yeah, I would say that there was nothing that jumped out at me from a cost perspective that was extreme. I think they're all little adjustments that will be incorporated into the estimate that will begin. Now that we have the details, we'll be able to carry retaining wall along the parking area if it's needed. But there's nothing, I haven't identified and put any numbers on them at this point, but there was no major surprises that really had us concerned.
And last question, now that we're finding that there's restrictions to the site after how does that affect going up past cold storage, I mean past the salt shed? What does that mean for our the available space driving up toward the salt shed? Is there any limitations we're going to see going forward with, having another battery structure if we want to have more cold storage?
Nope, we didn't see anything major. What we did just to control the initial first cost was we cheated in the storage bins a little bit. However, what's interesting, and we can further identify that as we get into the cost estimate, is the storage bins lend themselves to being built into a slope. So it might be worth us pushing them back to gain a little bit more space, use them as a retaining structure, and also store the bulk material, because now that material that's behind the wall really counters the forces that are going to be placed on it. It helps with the longevity of the wall. So I don't see anything that's going to restrict the use of that upper area and prevent us from having the ability to expand in the future if necessary.
Okay. And will you give us, in the next meeting, can you give us more design in that area, available space, so we know what we have as an option for cold storage as far as fabric building?
Yes, well, I'll do that. I'll confirm the salt storage requirements. We'll take a closer look at the annual consumption so we can confirm that we have the properly sized facility up there, and then we'll also take the material storage bins, and instead of just showing them, we have information from when we did the study. We'll define what is going to be stored in each bin and the storage capacity. That shouldn't be a problem.
And can you give us a preliminary, maybe another structure, another fabric structure that can be used as cold storage in place? Because we're losing 4,400 square feet, or there's some places we can take a look. I think it's large, that's a fabric building.
Yeah, we can look at that. So Dan, we'll go ahead, Tom. I was going to say, Dan, we can look at adding whether there's the ability to add a second fabric structure for cold storage in that upper level. We'll define what's going to be in each bin and confirm the storage capacity of the salt storage structure.
Jim?
It appears that having access to the building and to the facility would be important for that.
If I may, just on Dan's comment, looking at say the loss of that canopy off the backside of the garage that we're kind of hoping to fulfill most of, not all of our cold storage needs. I've been playing around a couple of weeks ago or so. I was playing around with some of the garage design, and I have some things I need to run by Jeff and company, where we might be able to get a narrowing of the garage. So maybe with some adjustment to the building, locating a little closer to Kedaya, a narrowing of the garage, maybe we can look at gaining that canopy space back. So that's something I want to go over with Jeff. We'll do it sooner than later, before your next meeting. And then another thought, Dan, you were just talking about again, the salt shed area and that whole area up there. And it's just, if we're doing a building, if we're doing, say, a salt shed fabric, or maybe front half is salt, back half is whatever, or back quarter is whatever additional cold storage you need. You just put a barrier in the middle to keep your salt away from your equipment. So maybe that's something to look at if we have the space need, and have one.
Right.
So maybe between a couple of things, but maybe we can add some cold storage on the overhang, you know, what I just talked about, and then whatever's left, we can do adjacent to the salt shed as one big structure. And then Dan and I were just talking about, you know, there's some parking on the left there that maybe we could do a small fabric structure there. So we've got a few alternatives we can look at, because honestly, yeah, I'd rather have all of it on site as opposed to anywhere else, and free up Bay Ridge and free up these other sites. I'd rather have it all together. So I think we've got a few options we can make work.
Although we heard on more than one occasion, as far as the salt sheds, you know, as big as you possibly can get. I mean, that theme just seemed to be, you know,
Yeah.
regular.
Yeah, I just sent an email after you guys brought it up to get like my last 5 years' usage of sand and salt, so we can come up with a volume requirement, and then we'll size it appropriately and take it from there. We just did that, and I'll just tell you guys, on the fuel depot, Jeff asked for the you know, quantities of gas and diesel consumption by the town, and originally I was thinking 2 10,000-gallon tanks, and now we're talking one tank with a split tank, a 4 and a 6, I think, right? So the size and the cost of that now is reducing based upon our actual usage that, you know, Jeff and his people have done. And the only other thing I'll note is, Jeff, point out with a CNG, future potential CNG spot.
Oh, yeah. So that is, you can see to the left of the fuel island, potential future CNG storage area here. So that way you're keeping everything in line with basically a fueling access aisle. And it's outside of the rest of the main yard. So that's basically right here in the upper left.
I guess we're trying to put something in a real small area.
A lot of it.
Yeah, a lot of stuff in there.
Now, how close to salt shed is your gift house?
Is the what?
How close to the salt shed is the gift house? Up the dump, there.
There it is.
I think this right here.
Okay, okay,
So the idea would be to keep that area
okay.
off limits.
Then yet again, you can still be using that in the hill for the brush and the leaves and everything, right?
We're going to have to, I'm actually, just so, here. I'm actually, GHD is our landfill consultant. Actually, they're working with Green Seal now as our landfill consultant. And one of the things I just talked to them about a few weeks ago was we need to relocate our compost operation. And that's permitted, the location is permitted by the state. So I got them looking at possible locations on site to relocate the leaf composting. So you might drop it, the public will probably drop it in the same location.
Yeah,
but
yeah, yeah.
the question is where do we actually
Where do you put it?
compost? Right, exactly. So working on that.
How deep do you think the retention area is going to have to be?
The new one?
Yeah.
Oh, let's see.
2 foot or 1 foot?
Huh?
Those are 1 foot. So we're about
15,
13 to
16 feet?
15 feet, yeah, at the deepest point.
Okay, how wide's it going to be at the bottom?
Oh, it varies, you can
It's
see.
going to vary.
Yeah, I know that, but roughly.
It's going to be 20 feet. Yeah, that's about 20 feet there. At the largest point, 20 feet across.
Okay.
Same thing down here, 20 feet across.
They're 2 to 1 side.
Yeah, I think they are 2 to 1, yeah. You know, so here's the issue over here where currently the runoff comes through a riprap spillway and into the basin.
Right.
So now we're going to take that stormwater runoff and we're going to try to get it down here to see if we can do the same type of crossing, surface crossing and into the basin. If not, it'll just have to be piped. We just have to do the calculations to figure out.
I think a big culvert pipe underneath that road would
Yeah.
be better than a bridge.
Yeah, me too.
Right.
That's what we're gonna aim for.
Cost some money, those bridges.
Doesn't it have your name on it?
Yes, it does. You gotta get the thing out in the truck.
Maybe you can bid on it when they're done with it.
No. Good
Okay.
All right, so that's our update. Any
All
other
right.
questions?
Any questions you guys got?
Yeah, they're doing a good job putting this in the area.
Yeah. Tom?
Only question, where we go from here? What's next meeting?
All right, so what we're going to do of our next steps is we are in the process of dealing with the landfill mitigation information and planning, so we just want to make sure we're talking DEP early so that we don't have any surprises associated with where we're constructing with the cap. And then we're going through and really working up the stormwater drainage investigation. So as I said, we've sized the basin based on what we feel is necessary, but what we're doing is going back through the the closeout reports to see if we can confirm the area that's contributing to that. So that basin may have to change in size, and we're going to begin setting some pipe routing and inverts so we can ensure that we're not impacting the capacity of that. And then from there, we're starting, as of next week, we've already started pulling together internally industrial equipment identification. So we'll be sending our industrial engineer out. What he's doing now is taking a preliminary list, puts together an equipment binder for the vehicle lifts, bridge crane, lubrication distribution systems, tailpipe exhaust system, and we'll come meet with the DPW and confirm that these are the specific types of equipment that are needed. That'll help us again with the estimate. And then we'll also evaluate any existing equipment, see if there's anything we can relocate, reuse to keep costs down. And then from there, we'll start our engineer's estimate, because that should give us all the data we need to do, not a square foot cost, but a real detailed cost. We'll initiate our engineer's estimate, and then following that, and we'll probably maybe even try to get it started a little bit early, we get the independent estimate, at which point we'll be able to come back to you with updated plans and an updated estimate. Estimate will be in a lot of detail. A lot of the unknown will now be taken out of it, so we'll be able to adjust our contingencies and get a sense on where we are in today's market. I think we've talked briefly over the years that, over the months, that there's been a recent spike in the market. We've seen it in a couple of projects. So, we got our eye on that, and we're trying to get a sense of what that impact might be for this project, because we don't want any surprises. And so we'll keep you posted. We're talking to some bidders to see what it looks like out over the next 6 to 12 months, and we'll go from there. But we'll have two nice detailed estimates so we can sit down and decide if there's any additional changes that need to be made.
As far as putting any cold storage pad on the back of the salt shed, I don't think that's a good idea. Because I've seen salt sheds, and when they have big bolts, metal behind it, the air from the salt really gets at it.
Yeah, one would think that would be kind of in conflict with what you're trying to do.
I mean, I don't go for that too much, but
Yeah, I
that's me.
think I'd agree with you. Third on our list is discussion of peer review. Sounds like we're getting, go ahead. No.
Sure?
Yeah.
Rather you talk. Just to bring us up to speed again, we had talked about doing a peer review. The committee talked about hiring the other firm that we interviewed for this project. But then the last time we met, I kind of shared with you guys that, I talked with John Kelly, and there's a potential conflict of interest using that firm, Weston and Sampson, because they have a working relationship from time to time. So I think the last meeting you guys had a conversation. Well, maybe we don't need to or whatever. But regardless, I went back to John and talked about it, and he basically said we have to do a peer review. If we're going to go to town meeting, we have to do it. It's in the charge of the committee. We need, before we go to the next step of actual design, he says very appropriate, and basically we need to do the peer review to make sure we're heading, that someone else looks at the design, everything else, and says, yeah, it looks good, it all makes sense. So with that being said, at this point, I guess before I come to you back again, I'll try to start hunting down again a firm that might be appropriate to do a peer review. I just haven't had a chance to do it with budgets due yesterday. So, but that's kind of the feel of, I guess, the Selectmen Administration, is that we need to do the peer review. We have the funds.
And do we have a a calendar deadline for any of that, or we just have to do it, right?
I think we just have to do it, but I think it has to be done in preparation for town meeting.
Right,
So
okay,
sometime in the next few months or whatever.
right.
I
It would have to be
say.
part of the charge that's been described so far.
Yeah, okay. So
Okay.
I'll get back on working on trying to find a firm
Okay.
to do the peer review and.
Have you guys got any input from that direction,
With regard to,
the peer review?
there's some other names that we can try to track down that we've seen out there,
Okay,
that we don't team with, but we've seen in this business.
okay,
So I'll see if I can provide some recommendations.
okay.
Yeah, they're no good.
So that's that.
All right, number 4, I'm sorry. Number 4 was discussion of the salt shed, and I think we've, covered that. 5, cold storage updates, and I think we're touching on that, or have. So how are we leaving the cold storage issue here?
I think, some of the sketch, I've had a couple chats with Jeff about design requirements, but I think we might be able to gain some cold storage on that opposite side of the garage. By narrowing the garage, we might be able to gain it back, and maybe by pushing the building a little bit. I just have to get with these gentlemen, share the thoughts. This is what this is what I'm looking at, that will probably work from an operational standpoint, and it does reduce square footage of the garage itself, which is a win-win, plus now maybe we could get more cold storage back in that area. So I need to review with them, so hopefully by the next time we come back, we'll go, hey, we got something. And then if there is other need, we'll look at some other options, whatever, on-site. We'll look at on-site other options.
Okay.
What we might be able to do. So we'll get back to you on cold storage.
And are we in agreement as to what we need cold storage-wise, or are we?
Well, we had, I'm going to run off the list we went through last year. You remember we had the entire equipment list.
Right.
We said, okay, this would be preferred.
Right.
40-degree storage, and this is definitely cold storage. I would run off that list as, okay, this is what we think we need, and we'll see what we can supply.
Okay, all right,
Maybe, hopefully we should be able to match it up. The goal will be to match it up.
okay. Moving along, has anybody got any questions before we do move on? All right. Next on the agenda is approval of the minutes, and we have minutes from
We have 3 meetings, Steve.
3 meetings,
File.
yes. Shame on us.
Maybe we can turn the lights on.
Do you want the lights?
Yeah, that probably would be.
Oops.
Here we go.
Glasses.
How the hell did I? Oh. There we go.
You sure?
Tom, do you need these?
What's that?
We need to file these.
The minutes from the last 3-minute meeting. Back to June.
These need to be filed? Is that what you're saying?
We're going to be filing them if you approve them, yeah.
Oh, that's what you're looking at, okay.
Yeah.
Has anybody got any issues with the minutes?
I move the minutes be accepted.
Okay.
Minutes of October 15th,
As
June
submitted.
8th, September 24th, and October 15th.
Yep. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay, and a vote.
Aye.
Aye. All right. We'll accept the minutes
We're up to date.
as submitted.
All yours.
Thanks a lot, Bill. June 8th, September, what are the dates?
Okay, items for our next agenda.
Mr. Chairman, just on the minutes, is someone going to be filing these with the clerk, you want me to do?
I can't hear you.
Is someone going to file these with the town clerk, or you want me to take care of it?
No, I'll file them.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody got any input for our next agenda?
Well, you want to finalize it.
Sorry, Dan?
Well, first, make sure to go back on that, to take insights on cold storage.
He's breaking up.
Yeah,
Any modifications to the building, cold storage.
Cold storage.
yeah. You're kind of breaking up there a bit, Dan, but let's see, if recap on that? What do we get?
So we'll get back to, why don't we put cold storage on?
Yep.
And then we'll get back to you with an update on, any ideas we come up with, we'll present them to you next meeting.
Okay,
And then the other thing I'd suggest was, again, just review progress with Weston and Sampson, put that as another agenda item.
okay,
Put peer review back on, put it on for the next agenda, and
yep.
and hopefully get a firm at that point we can talk to. I would like to talk to you, if I can, Mr. Chairman, about when we do the next meeting. So I was just looking at the schedule that's in our contract with Weston and Sampson, okay? So they're pretty much on schedule. I mean, maybe they're about a week off, but
Yep.
pretty much they're on schedule and where they need to be up to this date. And then looking, so per our contract, we tentatively said, well, we'll meet on December
14th.
Where are we? Yeah, December 14th, so which is a month away. So in that time frame, they got to wrap up the industrial equipment. I'm looking at what they need to do, and I think there's a lot of work. Like, I want to look at that cold storage thing again,
Yep.
and I think, and quite honestly, I'm leaving tomorrow for almost 2 weeks, so I'll be in touch probably with them a little bit, but I won't be focusing on it hard for the next couple of weeks. And the other thing is, Jeff showed you some new possible schematics. Remember with the bump out and everything, and how that reworked in the extra garage bay? I haven't had a chance to really look at it.
Yep.
So, I'm going to need a little time kind of to look at that and digest that and go, okay, from my standpoint, yeah, okay, this looks good, or what, or just whatever suggestions. I just haven't seen it, and I just want to announce it. So I'm looking at a potential mid-December meeting. I just think, and I'm asking Jeff, do you think that's a little tight for you guys to, because my point is, or what I was thinking of is, I want to be in a good space of information. Here's the size of the garage, here's the cold storage, here's this, here's that. I think, and all of us in a good space before they do the cost estimate.
Yeah,
Am I wrong in that?
No, I think that's a good assessment. To give you the opportunity, because we are moving quick, to give DPW the opportunity to review it and make sure that its operation is still functional. A little bit more time will be helpful, because then we'll still push forward hard and fast, but give you the plans, have you opportunity for you to review them, then we get them back, edit them, and then schedule a meeting at that point.
Yeah, because I mean, not just me, but you guys need to be on board, with, I guess I'll ask this to Jeff, process, if I come up with, Jeff and me and, Weston and Sampson, we come up with a garage with some cold storage, and we like that, we like it, and he runs a cost estimate for the whole job, and then present it to you, you haven't even seen the changed garage yet, is that a problem for Weston and Sampson? You do the cost estimate with the new garage, but they don't like it, so we have to rework it. Is that a problem? Or not,
Yeah.
I don't want to slow things down, but I want to make sure we're doing our due
Yeah.
diligence and doing it
yeah,
right.
I would agree with that.
I would recommend doing what you just said, and that is get the opportunity to prepare the information, have it vetted by you and the committee, and then get buy-in on where we're headed so that we can then do the estimate without having to start trying to shift things around later. That's going to give us a cleaner estimate.
Yeah.
And I don't think, it doesn't really impact what we're aiming for is town meeting.
Yeah, we're still in good shape.
Yeah, still, a couple of weeks aren't going to
Right.
kill it
Yeah.
overall.
So maybe then the mid-December meeting won't have the engineer's cost estimate. It'll just have, okay, here we are, here's our cold storage, here's what we're thinking, and then, if you guys are good with it all, then they'll do
Yeah.
the cost estimate for a meeting a couple weeks later in
Yeah.
January,
Okay,
if that makes sense to you guys.
that makes sense to me.
I just want to make sure we all have a comfort level
Yep.
before they're getting ahead of us
Yep.
and spinning their wheels.
Yeah. Dan, have you got any, did you catch all of that? You got any questions?
I did, you mean per time, you stop for working?
Get that?
You were, I go.
Yeah, we're still,
Your
we're missing
connection
about
is
3/4
breaking
of that.
down. We can't hear.
Yeah. Okay, so, I know I am.
Hey, Dan, try going to voice only without the video. It'll probably free up the audio. Or Sarah, can you do that? Is she here? I don't think she's here.
Hear me better now?
Yeah, a little.
Yeah,
Okay. So Tom, it sounds like you wanted to have the meeting a little bit later, because the 14th was not enough time. Did you want to, with everything going on in Florida for leisure, I know it's getting into the holidays, but you want to push it out, past the 14th?
Well, what I would say is let's not, for the next meeting, let's not do the engineer's cost estimate yet. And, yeah, maybe go out 1 week, maybe like the 21st. Does that work for the committee?
Yeah, I mean, I'm around, I don't
I
know
think it's
about,
up, you guys are the drivers. I mean, what can you get done and when can you get it done? I agree with the concept that we shouldn't try to do the cost estimating till we've had one more go-round, but,
yeah.
so when can you get that done?
Yeah, so I'm thinking if we go with the 14th, does that day still work for you?
Well, the 14th is a Monday, and that's what we put in the contract. I don't know if it works for you guys, but that's a Monday. We could go later that week, a few more days, I don't know, the 17th or whatever works for you guys.
It's open for me.
Go Tuesday again?
It sounds like, Tom, that you wanted the 21st, that you're the person that's going to be gone for 2 weeks, we have a lot of work to do here, plus a million other things in town. So, I'm happy going to the 21st, I don't know about everybody else, but.
Yeah, I don't think it makes that much difference.
Yeah.
No.
There's no pushing this. We might as well get the
It's
right
another week,
answers in the
take
right
another
time
week.
frame.
So you want to do Monday the 21st? Does that work for everybody?
Yeah.
I won't be here.
You won't be here?
No, I'll be in New York. No, I won't be here.
Um,
That's a bad week. That's Christmas week.
Right. I mean, that's why I was thinking, you want to do just the 17th, a few days later?
17th is fine.
I'm supposed to be away the 21st.
Well, yeah, I don't want to do that to you.
I was just-
No.
Be at home.
We're not going to make you work on your vacation. How about the 17th? Does that
Yeah,
work for people?
17th.
all right.
That's all right?
Yeah, that works.
All right.
Try to do 4 o'clock again?
Are we saying 4?
12/17, 4 p.m.
And the purpose will be to just review further progress in terms of design and layout and so forth, with no cost estimates
Right.
involved.
Okay. Like I said, I just want to make sure we got good, we're all happy where we're moving before we move on to the next piece. So, all right. Thank you.
Do you have copies of this, Jeff?
I do.
I'd like them. Yes. You want
Yeah.
copies of the?
Yeah, I would,
Yeah,
because,
I need-
we're getting to the point where
are they in color?
They are.
a little
Yeah.
presentation support would be, good thing to get into.
email this to
Thanks.
The presentation?
Thank you. So what other items do we have on the?
Dan, you want us to email the presentation to you?
Is the peer review even an issue anymore? It's a mandate.
Oh, yeah, no, it
It's a
is.
mandate.
Yeah, no,
We
it
don't
is.
have anything to say about
Right, no.
the peer
No.
review.
No, we do, but,
We do, but we
there's no
don't.
question, we
get
are
to pick
doing
who's
it.
going to do it.
Okay, do I hear an adjournment?
So moved.
And we have a motion? Aye,
Aye.
unanimous.
Aye.
We're adjourned.
Thank you.